Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Well, let me start off by telling you guys that if you need to be visually stimulated, this is not the video for you, because what you're seeing is where you're going to see the whole video. Okay? So I try to park in a spot where you guys can see the city of Fairbanks, but being that we're in the middle of summer right now, it's so green that these trees in front of me are completely full and you can't see anything except for the sky and the trees. But ladies and gentlemen, this is a conversation that I think we need to have, and especially for those of you, and if you're new to the channel and if you're just passing by, listen to what I have to say. The reason I'm doing this video is because I've seen a few comments lately where community members tell me, well, my husband thinks that getting prepared is just a waste of time and money and he'll have nothing to do with it, or my wife is not on board with it, or my family thinks that I'm just crazy and they think that I'm just wasting my time and all that kind of stuff. I'm hoping that those of you that are listening to this video that either fall into that category or are not preparing yourselves will continue to listen to this video throughout its entirety. Okay, because ladies and gentlemen, well, let me just go ahead and start by telling you guys that we, at least in the US, okay, and I'm sure that in a lot of other countries, if not most countries, we as a citizenry are kept mostly in the dark about what is really going on, right, around our country or your country or the world. For those of you that don't know, there are 6 major corporations that own 90+% of all of the news outlets in this country, in the US, and is probably similar to other countries. That means that we are getting our information from what the heads of 6 corporations want us to hear. Do you think that these corporations have your best interest at heart? Or do you think that these corporations have the interest of their stockholders at heart? How much do you trust the government? All right? How much do you trust that the government is going to be there to take care of you and your family during the worst of times? How much do you trust that? These are the questions that you should be asking yourselves if you're not preparing. These are the questions that you should be asking your better half if they're against you getting prepared to make sure that your family has the things that they need in order to maintain a relative standard of living should some kind of a life-changing event occur. We're on our own, and the sooner that we realize that, the better that we will be when it really counts. So when I talk about life-changing event, what does that mean? It could be anything. It could be a personal crisis, right? It could be a job loss. It can be an accident where you can't work because you break a leg or break your back or have carpal tunnel. It could be anything. It could be the unfortunate death of the primary wage earner in your family. You know, and for those of you that are my VIPs that are always here when I put out a video, first of all, thank you very much. But fill in the gaps. I'm sure there are dozens and dozens of other reasons why you should be getting prepared. You know, it doesn't have to be just a personal crisis. It doesn't have to be Armageddon. It doesn't have to be the apocalypse. It doesn't have to be the end of the world. It doesn't have to be these things for you to be prepared. It could be a natural crisis, a natural disaster. It could be a hurricane. All right, we've all seen what happens when a really bad hurricane happens. And the small amount of assistance that the government does provide is not enough to take care of everyone affected. It could be a flood. Look at what's going on with the floods in the Midwest nowadays. Look at what's going on with all that rain that they're getting down in the Gulf Coast. It could be a tornado, an earthquake. It could be a drought where we have a time that is similar to the Dust Bowl back in the, I believe it was in the 30s. Where people actually had to leave their land because there was absolutely no water and there was so much dust because it was so dry that the farmland had eroded to nothing but sand. It could be a food shortage. It could be a pandemic. It could be anything. But my question is why would you want to wait till the day after a crisis to start preparing? Why not prepare before the crisis occurs? I remember reading a comment that someone left behind, and this person said, I've been hearing this about the world coming to an end or whatever for the last 40 years, and nothing's happened yet. And my reply to him was, well, that is great. That is great that you've been hearing about this for 40 years. That means that you must be really prepared. So, ladies and gentlemen, I wish that we have another 40 years with the status quo as it is right now. I wish that we have another 40 years ahead of us with us being able to go to the supermarket and get whatever we want, with us being able to go to the gas station and paying $3 or $4 a gallon for gas. All right, with us being able to go to the emergency room and getting treated whenever we want to or need to. I wish that was the case. But is that why you buy car insurance? Do you buy car insurance after you have an accident? Do you have a spare tire in your car because you believe you will never have a flat tire? Do you have a fire extinguisher in your kitchen because you believe you will never have a fire? Of course not, ladies and gentlemen. It's because, believe it or not, we are all preppers. Every one of us are preppers. It is just the degree of preparedness that we have, right? We all prepare in a certain way. But to what degree do you want to be prepared should something happen where your standard of living would be affected by any of those things, by any of those forces that I mentioned, and to include man-made forces or man-made crises? For example, what if we have a conflict with another nation, right? If you all read history back in World War II or during World War II, they were ration books where people had actual ration books because they had to conserve as much goods as they could to send to the forward lines to feed the troops. So people would only get so many pounds of sugar a month. They would only get so much peanut butter, so much butter, etc., etc. Wouldn't it be nice that if something like that ever did happen again, God forbid, that you had a 5-gallon pail of sugar just put away under your house in the basement? You took a 5-gallon container, you filled it with sugar that you bought for $11, $12, $13, whatever it may be, and you put it away. And one day in the future, if you ever needed to get into that for whatever reason, that you would be able to. It could be an economic crisis. And I don't even have to tell you all of the countries just in the last 10, 15 years that have had economic collapses, that have had super high inflation. I mean, just a few come to mind. Zimbabwe, Argentina, Turkey is currently going through a high inflationary period. All right. Of course, everyone's heard about Venezuela, who this year alone is going to have more than 1,000,000% inflation. And of course, we can always go back in history and talk about how people were burning their Deutschmarks, I believe it was, back in Germany, because it was worth more for them to use their paper currency as fuel for their heat source than it was worth for them to go out and buy a loaf of bread with it. It could be anything as simple as, well, not really simple, but it could be a credit freeze, you know, which would cause a deflation, meaning that there wouldn't be enough money in circulation to purchase goods at a certain price. It could be a bank closure. I'm not sure how many of you guys know this, but back in the early 1900s, we had a crash. I think it was 1914. I'm not sure exactly the year, but the banks were closed for 5-6 months. What would you do if you woke up tomorrow, the price of gasoline was $27 a gallon, and the banks were closed, and you couldn't use your credit cards or your ATMs? What if there's a nuclear plant accident? What if we lose electricity for a long term, for a week or 2 weeks or a month, or God forbid for 6 months? How prepared are you for the likelihood that these things could actually happen? You know, when someone like this gentleman who commented that he hasn't seen something like this happen in 40 years and he's been hearing this for 40 years, I always come back to saying, so what you're saying is that because I've never broken a bone in my body, it means that I can never break a bone in my body. Because it's never happened here, it means that it can never happen here. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, it's the opposite. All right? Through the laws of averages, since it's never happened here, it means that it probably will happen here sooner or later. That it's probably closer for it to happen than not if it's never happened here. Which, of course, it has happened here in the past. It's just that the business cycle has come and gone. A business cycle is usually about 80 years or so. And what they mean by a business cycle is usually the lifespan of a person, which is around 80 years. So we forget these things because the people that were around in that time, they're not here anymore to remind us of these things. So it's easy for us to forget. So what are you doing to prepare? What are you doing to make sure that you can still be able to provide your family and yourself with a standard of living that is similar to the one that you have now, or that would at least keep them alive for a period of time until the crisis is over, all right? Or until you figure out what you're going to do to continue to provide your family with a standard of living that will not, I guess, make them crazy. Right? And what I mean by a standard of living is for you to still be able to eat 3 meals a day or 2 meals a day, or consume enough calories to where you can actually do things instead of just staying in one spot all day long and not doing anything because you are so weak from the deficit in your caloric intake. That's what I mean by providing a standard of living. I also mean by that, for you to be able to provide your family with lighting, with electricity, with fuel, so that if for some reason the emergency room is still operating, you can actually take your child or your wife or yourself to an emergency room because you have the forethought to put away a few gallons of gasoline. So I just want to go over with you really quick. I don't want to make this video too long because I don't want to lose you, but I want to go over you really quick how you can start to prepare. Wake up tomorrow morning, take inventory of everything that you have to use that day, from the time you wake up until the time you go to bed, and start to build up your working pantry of all goods that you use and build up a 3 to 6 month supply of food and stuff and things that you use on a daily basis. I prefer 1 year supply instead of 6 months or 3 to 6 months. But it's up to you to determine how long you want to be prepared for should a crisis occur. All right? And make sure to rotate those items. All right? That way you're always eating the food and using the products with the oldest dates on them. Right? That way you can continue to rotate those items and they'll never go bad on you. All right? You don't need to go out and spend $1,000 or $10,000 to do this. Just get 1 or 2 extra things every time you go shopping and add it to your working pantry until you've reached your goal. All right? So what things do you use on a regular basis? I mean, it's easy. All you have to do is wake up tomorrow, grab a piece of paper and a pen, put it in your pocket, and start writing down what you use. You use water, right? You use coffee. You use toothpaste. You use a toothbrush. You use floss to floss your teeth. You use mouthwash. Of course, you eat, so you need food. You need fuel for your vehicle or for heating your home or for cooking or for lighting. All right? Do you have candles? What if you lose electricity and you don't have any lights? Do you have a way of producing electricity? Should we have a long-term electrical grid problem? Do you have a way of producing renewable energy? You don't have to go out and spend $12,000 on a solar plant, on a whole bunch of solar panels. Just getting a small 10-watt solar panel with a small inverter, just enough to charge an LED lamp, could be enough. Right? Do you have a few extra dollars at home? Do you have, $100 or $200 in ones, tens, 20s, fives? So that way, if we do have some kind of a credit crisis or economic crisis, you can still have cash in hand to go out and purchase some of the items that maybe you forgot to prep for. Do you have clothes? Do you have extra clothes? Do you have kids? Do you have clothes for them that are maybe one size or two size larger? That way, if something happens and they grow, they'll be able to fit into the clothes. Same thing with shoes. Do you have a good pair of work boots in case you have to go out there and do manual labor and cut wood, or build something that you've not built before? Even if you work in an office setting, do you have a good pair of work boots? Do you have some jeans? Do you have batteries, flashlights, knives, medicines, bug spray, matches? Do you have a ferrocerium rod, and do you know how to use it so that you can start a fire? Do you have some lint? Do you have some lint saved from your dryer? That way it can help you start a fire easier. Do you have extra soap? All the various personal hygiene items that we use that keep us healthy, because believe it or not, during some kind of long crisis or life-changing event, personal hygiene is probably going to be just as important as food and water. Do you have toilet paper, or do you have a week's supply of toilet paper? Do you get one pack every 2 weeks, just enough to last you a week or two? Do you have Band-Aids? Do you have some building materials, nails, screws, tape, glue? Do you have some tools to put those building materials to use, just in case you need to shutter up your windows, just in case you need to reinforce your home? That way it will keep people from coming in when you don't want them to come in. And ladies and gentlemen, it's etc., 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 etc. But the point of this is you need to make your own list of the things that fit your standard of living, of the things that fit you, because we are all different. Most of these things are items that you may already have and only need to fill in the gaps, right? So a lot of these things are just basic things that most people already have. So how prepared are you? Ladies and gentlemen, only you can answer that question. I try to read every single comment, but a lot of comments get stuck with me because it tells me that there are still people out there, and I know this, of course there are. There are still so many people out there with their blinders on. They can only look in one direction. That's why I don't like to do a lot of videos where I show myself, because it takes away from the message, right? Someone's going to look at me and say, oh my God, this guy's a fat body and he's a prepper. How is he going to bug out? Don't worry about how I'm going to bug out. Just worry about how you're going to bug out if your plan is to bug out. The other day, someone commented that the sandwich that I made, that thing looks like it's got about 2,500 calories. Okay, so if you don't want to make that sandwich, then don't make it. Is that all you're thinking about? Here I'm trying to teach you how to prepare a meal with long-term food storage. That way you can be comfortable with knowing that these products will actually work in a crisis situation, but all you can think about is it's got 2,500 calories. Take your blinders off, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the big picture. Stop listening to the mainstream media, or better yet, listen to the mainstream media and then go research everything they tell you. That way you can be better informed so you can make better choices for yourselves and your families. Listen to me, but don't believe me. Whatever I'm telling you, go out and research. Go out and look at what other countries have gone through in the past. Look at what this country has gone through in the past. Ladies and gentlemen, it's like they say, history usually does not repeat itself, but more than likely it always rhymes. All right? I'm not saying that the exact same thing that happened 100 years ago is going to happen today or tomorrow or next year, but more than likely it'll be something similar to it. We will have another financial crisis. There will be another war. There will be another world war. I don't know when, but there will be. What makes this time that we're living in right now any more special than what it was 100 years ago? We are still human beings. We are still people, and we still have the same faults that we've always had. We will never be perfect, and throughout history, we have proven to ourselves that we will continue to make the same mistakes that we made in the past. So for you that are in the know, why don't you take advantage of this time that we have? Why don't you take advantage of this blessing that we've been granted and given to prepare for when one of those times happens? All right. And if it never happens, consider yourself lucky and blessed, and leave whatever it is that you had to your children. That way, if they have to go through it, they'll be prepared. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be about it for today. All right. I just had to get that off my chest, and I really want for you guys to really take inventory of what it is that you need in order to just survive, for a few months. Even if you prepare for a few months, which I don't think a few months is enough. I think at least a year, at least 1 year, so that you can learn how to garden and you can at least fail one gardening season and still have enough sustenance to get you through to the next gardening season. All right. That's why I think that at least 1 year or more is preferable. All right. But just take inventory of what it is that you need. If you really think that nothing will ever happen, then many blessings to you, and I hope that you are right. I truly do. But if you think for 1 second that if something happens that is a systemic, life-changing event, that you're going to get bailed out, I would say that you are wrong. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining in today. Hey, let me let you guys know that I will not be putting up a video this Sunday. All right. I've got too much to do at the house, and hopefully I'll be able to get it done, because it looks like we might get a little bit of rain. However, I may be able to take a break sometime on Saturday and do a quick review. I received a few items from a company that wanted me to do a review for them, and I went ahead and agreed to it because the items are things that I was actually planning on getting. Or actually, one of the items was something that I was actually planning on getting, and I've been putting it off. The other items are something that they just threw in with that. Okay, so I'll probably do a review on that sometime this weekend and maybe put it up for Sunday or Monday, but I won't be doing a live premiere chat this Sunday. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So sorry about that. I'm actually going to miss it just as much as some of the other regulars that join me every Sunday. And I will see you guys next Sunday, though. All right, and we'll have a video up for then. Let me go ahead and throw this in. The pantry contest. I will still accept pictures of your pantry if you want to enter the contest until the end of July. All right. The last day of July, I will not accept any more pictures, because that is when I am going to start to consolidate the pictures and number them, and then start making a video so that we can have people vote on their favorite pantries. All right. So having said that, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you very much for joining in. I appreciate it. If you guys are my VIPs that are here every time that I put up a video, thank you very much. You guys know that you're the ones that make up the community. All right. And if you're new to the channel, thank you very much for subscribing. I hope that you're getting something out of the content, and I hope that you're getting a lot of value out of the community as a whole. All right. So thank you for coming along and joining the ride with us. Here's Alaska Prepper here. Let me start off real quick by saying that if you need to be visually, what do you call that? Visually, when you have like visually, like when systematized or hypnotized, visually
mesmerized?
No, not mesmerized. Visually, look it up on your phone. Visually somethingized. Visually stimulated. That's it. Visually stimulated. All right, take two. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, I think this is the last weekend that Oxen Farms has that sale. I think this weekend it's over, unless they extend it again. So if you guys want to take advantage of that, go ahead and go over there and take advantage of that. And if you want to support the channel, please use my link. It does really help. Many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper, and I am out.